All right, here we go. Overdrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill. There's Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. How's everybody doing today?
How's two of my favorite gentlemen doing today? I'd like to wish you a fantastic day. And I would also like to wish you the best of luck during this season. To those who celebrate, it's about a 4-week to 5-week stint. It is Windows Up dart season and Windows Up cigar season.
Yes, it is. You're right. You're right about that.
To those who celebrate, embrace it. Enjoy poisoning the person next to you because it is cold out.
It's freezing, and this is it, right? Even the biggest hardcore gotta be outside to smoke activist is like, forget it, man. I'm leaving that at the door, right?
I'm just not even having a dart today.
Or I'm going to have to avoid it altogether. But you're right. It is so cold that it's going up and down the East Coast. Like, it's snowing in Florida right now.
Yes.
Is it? Yes. There is a video that is circulating online just over the border where you can see the welcome to Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, and it is snowing, and there's like an inch or two of snow on the ground, which means the whole state is shut down completely. We have friends that live in Austin. My wife was telling me, she got a text today, Austin, Texas. It snowed overnight. Everything closed. Schools closed. Everything shut down. No one leaving their house. And again, it's so cold up here.
Yeah, but dude, do you know the reaction down there when snow hits? When I played for the Hurricanes, one of my best friends, it took their kid's bus 12 hours to get home.
I know.
Dude.
Like, they can't react.
They
don't understand it. It's wild. And I get it that you're so ignorant to it because of where you live. You never see snow. Ever see snow. But it's not harmful at all. It does nothing. Like I get you don't have, like they don't have salt machines down there. They don't have salt pier. They don't have shovels. They don't have snow tires. They don't have plows. Like none of that is available to anybody south of what? Like North Carolina, probably. That's probably the line across the country down there. Anything south of it, you don't have it. But if it's just a little bit of flurries, and that's not going to affect anybody, yet it completely paralyzes the whole society. Like everything shuts down. No, and it's just accepted. Like we're not leaving the house. It's snowing outside.
But even in places like I remember being with the Leafs in Washington once, and it was just like a little flurry, and they're like, flights are all canceled, delayed, and I'm like, what's going on? Like,
I don't understand that.
They probably don't have the de-icing machine.
That's a big part of it. Is you don't have the infrastructure to get out of it. Where if it is freezing cold, you can't fly. Like they're obviously down in Florida. There's the video right there. That naturally will completely shut everything down. Nobody knows how to live like that.
Not real.
No one's appropriate. You think it's AI?
I don't know. Now you never know, right?
Now you kind of never know. But
I don't know.
I guess, Doogie, do a little bit more research. That is the video I saw.
Where is that from?
That's somewhere in the state of Florida. I don't know. The northern border of Florida. I mean, it is freezing down there. Like, it is legitimately cold. I was looking at, for some reason, it popped up, like Raleigh. I was thinking of you. Oh, and right now it's like -3, feels like -7 in Raleigh, North Carolina. That is legitimately very, very cold.
Do you guys have a line where if it says real feel is this, you're not going outside?
Real feel is the only thing that matters. Yeah. I don't know why we do whatever the standard temperature is.
I just want the real feel.
Exactly.
I want, like today it said -14, but feels like I want -26.
Exactly. Get rid of the -14. It's a completely irrelevant number. Like, nobody cares about that. Whatever the real feel is, that's the temperature.
Yes.
That's what matters to people.
But is -10 like your cutoff? -20?
For what? Feeling comfortable?
Like you'll go outside.
Well, I'll go outside if it's sunny. Listen, we're Canadian, and what I will say, and I thought of this today. I stopped to get some gas on the way here. And
that's a nightmare, too.
It is, because you realize you're like, man, I jammed myself here. Like, it's so cold out. I got to get out of the car. I'm freezing. And I have a winter jacket, like a quality Canadian winter jacket.
No gloves, because you're too cool.
No gloves and no hat, because I got the hair going, because we're coming in here. We're on TV. Got to make sure everything's, ready to go. But the point I'm making is, even with the jacket, it doesn't stop you from freezing. Like you talk to Canada Goose guy believes that minus 50, it's tropical because he has a Canada Goose jacket on. It's not.
No, there was Canada Goose guys walking around for a stroll today. I saw a couple joggers today. They're not stopping.
But it doesn't actually keep you from being freezing. Like there is no jacket, there's no technology that can keep you feeling warm when it feels like minus 25 outside.
I will say this.
Sorry, you can't.
If you have like a thin pair of sweatpants on, I've got a couple of jackets where my upper body is, no question, furnace, like heating up. I'm not
no
cold
chance,
at all.
dude.
But
no chance.
if I don't have the same type of protection down below, your legs are going to be cold. But I got a couple of jackets, man. I'll wear one for the last segment of this hour. This thing, it's like Papa Smurf on roids, dude. It's big, it's blue, it's puffy, and you're not penetrating it. No way.
I'm telling you, go step outside with that thing for 5 minutes,
dude,
and
wait
you're
till
freezing.
you see this thing.
I'm sure it's going to be very impressive. I'm sure it's a very impressive puffy jacket. I salute you for it. I want to see it. I'm curious for it. But I don't believe it. It's what I'm saying. I just don't believe that there's technology. It's one thing if you're layered. That's another thing. Like if you have long johns on and then you've got pants and shirts and hoodies and sweaters and hats. Okay. But simply the jacket. Like Canada Goose guy thinks he can have nothing on under the jacket and just have the jacket on, and he's miraculously warm forever.
He is. That's true.
No,
that's
he's not.
Dude, I swear.
No, it's not.
I got another
true.
one. I don't know. I hate jacket talk. I got another jacket.
Jacket
It's called.
talk.
Yeah,
Do you get involved in jacket talk
Dude,
often?
I got a
why are
jacket-
you bothered by jacket talk?
I got a jacket.
Yeah.
That's called a massage. Okay.
Right.
What?
It's got a fur hoodie, and I'm telling you, you could have no gear on, top and bottom, and just this jacket,
No.
and you are cozy.
I'm
You're
not
sweating.
buying it, man. I'm not buying it. And I don't know. I mean, styles are wild. You know what I saw at a rink? I was at a rink last weekend, I guess. And I saw a guy decked out full fur coat. You never see that anymore, man.
Apparently they're in fashion right now.
This guy, I think this guy's a trailblazer because and it was the long
dude?
one. It was a guy with a massive fur coat, and it was down to like his ankles. And this thing it's a showstopper, man. Like you're wearing a fur coat, people are gonna be like, "Wow, that's a fur coat." Like that's impressive. Like, and I understand, we're living in a different era, and there's a lot of people that are against that kind of stuff. This guy he did not care what anyone thought.
Dude, you get
He's
a head
rocking
nod
a
of
fur
head nod of respect with that thing, and people just they're in shock. They're like,
exactly.
You are someone of importance with that jacket.
Yes.
Salutations.
It is a showstopper, man. It's an absolute showstopper. All right, now I'm going to get people coming at me about
Your take?
Yeah, like,
is a
well, what if
strong
you live in
take.
Alaska or the Arctic? There's got to be.
Do you not layer up?
Yeah, but that's different, Joe. That's what I'm saying. That's not the jacket alone. The jacket, gives you some sort of insulation, but you need more than that to really have any chance of staying warm. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
I want to know about this macash or whatever.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. We'll make
I'll
sure
start
this
the
guy
next
rocks
segment.
it.
I'll have massage on.
Okay.
You guys will see this thing. It's gorgeous.
All right. I look forward to that. And I saw the Leafs, I guess, are putting together their plans of their annual outdoor practice, which is next Monday. I haven't looked at
It's in Mimico.
the weather yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be freezing. Like, do you think they'd cancel it if it was today?
Absolutely.
I don't think.
I'm canceling it. Sorry.
I don't think it's safe for people to be down there.
I've
That's
been
what
to
I'm saying.
Some of them in the past, and they're pretty cold. Like they're doing it in January all the time.
That is the catch, is that you're planning on it being cold, but it's not about the Leafs. Like, they're working out and all. It's about like kids being down there in schools and
No, sorry, it's about the players. Do you want some guy going out there and minus 25 and blowing his groin out? It can't happen. Like, you got to cancel it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I guess you can consider both parties, the players and the kids. I think you can consider the kids and how cold it is. But yes,
Look, if there's a charity involved, If there's a charity involved, come
Yeah.
on down to Scotiabank Arena
Sure.
or the practice rink. It's right around the corner.
That's the way to do it. You know what? We're going to
Yes.
open up Scotia instead. It's like yesterday with the inauguration, right? They said, forget it. We're not doing it outside. We're going to do it inside. Right? It's too cold outside, so there you go. All right. Where are we going here? We got the Leafs, actually, speaking of which. That was an impressive win last night.
Sure.
You like that one, Jonas?
Yeah.
Like now you look at it, they got a 5-point buffer on Florida, right? This time last week it's only 3 games, who cares? And now 3 straight wins and impressive wins at that. Comebacks against Jersey, very impressive comeback against Montreal, and they were in the driver's seat all night last night. Like 100% deserved to win that and played better. And now you look at the standings, 5-point buffer on Florida, 9-point buffer on Tampa, and yeah, Washington's got you right now, but you're chasing them. You're within range, and it's a little bit deceptive with the amount of games everyone's played. But in terms of just pure points, the Leafs are second in the East right now.
Well, and imagine if you had told them all this stuff is going to happen. Matthews is not going to be healthy for the first half of the year. Stolarz is going to miss, half of the first half, a quarter of the first half. Tavares is going to miss time. McCabe's going to miss time. Like all these different things, and they're going to be first in the division and challenging for the conference. They'd be
You
thrilled.
be ecstatic with that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and what has happened now recently is they're starting to look like the offensive juggernaut that they're supposed to be.
Sure.
Dude,
And that's
William
important.
Nylander is outrageous right now. I think he's found the version of himself that makes the money, like that's the $11.5 million guy. And if he can put together his A game, which we've seen a lot of the last 2 seasons, and he's bringing that to the table 70 times a year, that's pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's going to have his 10 games where they're like, okay, Willie, what's going on? You haven't scored in a bit. But for the most part, like, he plays so good the last couple games. Like, I used to play right wing, and I was a pretty good player. That's as good as you can play right wing, man. Like, that's just elite stuff. That's
he's
as good as it gets.
Listen, when it comes to Willie, he's been connected to David Pastrnak his whole life because they grew up playing together, and they're
was
really
a time
close friends.
We had
was said,
some arguments
Brian,
about that.
Yeah.
Well, there was a time where I think a lot of people said it, and I would agree that they were like, Nylander can't carry Pasternak's bag into the rink. And I don't think that's the case right now.
Oh, I think he's better than him right now. Like, he's playing better than him. Pastrnak at his best, I think you still got to give it to him. He scored 60 in a season.
Yes.
The guy's had playoff performances that have been big, although Willie's been good in the playoffs too. But as of right now, you look at even the last 2 years and you pit them against each other, who do you think has had more impact on their team's success during the regular season? It's William Nylander. Like, at a minimum, he's caught up to Pastrnak, which is really, really impressive because he got paid a year ago and he hasn't slowed down. This isn't an Elias Pettersson situation where Willie got paid and said, all right, thanks. I'll see what happens now. This guy, he clearly motivates himself. Berube had a great quote about him recently that he doesn't talk to Willie. He listens to Willie, basically, and tries to get a read on Willie. And
He
Nylander's
said he wants to hear him out.
He wants to hear him out. Yes. Yeah. In other words, like, Nylander's, he's thinking. Like, he's a gamer. He's a hockey nerd. He's trying to figure out what's working and what's not working. And you're right. The last few games, William Nylander has played as well as you could possibly play. Yet, I look at the top line I thought Marner was phenomenal. Was a wizard last night. Like, Mitch Marner was a wizard last night. And yet, again, it gets back to a conversation that we've had many times this year. And I kept pointing out, and I'm not alone in this, and this isn't a patting of the back. It all falls into place when Matthews is Matthews. Everything falls into place when the big dog is chugging the way he's chugging. And that goal he scored last night, like, that's him in a nutshell. Like, it's a driving downhill. I've got the puck at the blue line, and there's no way you're stopping me here. He's done it multiple times in the last week. He scores every single night again. Yep. He allows Marner and Nyes to find their role beautifully, which is what's happening. The opposition's like, okay, well, now we got to stop this guy, which clears up Willie on the second line, whoever he's playing with. Like, Nylander's playing with Pontus Holmberg. And this guy's like, just jump on my back. I'll take you wherever we got to go. And I will say, Bobby McMahon has done a great job of being like, I'm riding with you, man. Mm-hmm. Like, let me just go up and down this wing and skate fast and work hard and chip away and make the right plays and be in the right position.
That's what I like the best about William Nylander. He just goes out there and it's Bobby McMahon in Holmberg. He doesn't say boo. He doesn't make facial expressions. He doesn't make a stink on the bench. He just goes out there and gets it done. And that wrist shot, man, like that breakaway wrist shot, it is like, it's just a side effect of scoring the goal. But when it just like goes in and it has the look of the goalie had zero chance of stopping it, that's a flex, man.
Yeah.
Well,
when you just go down there and rip it, and it's like that's in and out, and you didn't even see that goalie. You had no shot at it, and you're just not saving that.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things that I can see, like, from just being around the team every day that's probably underappreciated generally by people who don't get to do that, like, he is working at his game constantly. Nylander, I'm talking about. Like, every day at practice, like, he is there after. He's before. Like, he's working on this. He's working on that. Like, it's not... It looks like when you watch him, you're like, man, this guy's just, like, cool. He's laid back.
Yeah, freak of nature, the natural.
Exactly. But, like, he's dialed into, like, continually improving. And I think that's,
Jonas,
like...
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I love hearing that.
That's a professional, man. That's a professional.
Man.
And not that it's necessary for the shrapnel, but I think it's a good compare and contrast. Phil Kessel was the complete opposite.
Covered as well.
Phil was the last guy on the ice, the first one to leave, but he was a natural, and he was unbelievable.
He did his job.
He did his job, and he played every single night.
Sure.
Yeah.
But Phil was very different. But
the thing is, and guys, I know this better than anybody, he's going to sit back, and he might be fishing, he might be just sitting on his porch, and he's going to say to himself one day, whether he likes it or not, how much better could it have been? You know, you can be the guy that says, hey, I didn't miss games. I was, I never missed games. I was the Iron Man leader. I was this, I was that. I scored. But there'll be a point where you look back and you're like, why didn't I try to perfect the craft to best of my ability? Work on your game daily. Like, you only got about 10 years if you're lucky to do it. Like, he'll say that to himself. So that's always going to be the comeback. Like, why didn't you give yourself the best chance to be the best player possible?
Mm-hmm. And that is what is so flummoxing about, like, these three players. Because Matthews has a very similar reputation of being a guy who is uber dedicated to his craft, to his body, like, knows everything he eats and sleeps and everything he does is like Drago from, like, Rocky IV. You know, like that's what I've heard through the grapevine over the years.
I've talked to teammates, they say the same thing.
Yeah, like he is.
Like in the summer, he's doing this at this time, this at this time.
Very regimented. Yeah. Like textbook 2025 professional athlete. And William Nylander is clearly like that. And I think Marner is like that. Marner is a little bit different because he's built different. He's not a beast. He's not a freak of nature.
Tavares the same way?
Tavares, exactly. Like these guys are great professionals and committed to their crafts. And again, we bring it up all the time. Like everything they've done has been exactly what you could ever ask for, with the exception of the one platform. Like that's the only thing, because they've been great citizens. Sure. They represent the city well. You know, they're charitable with their time. You know, they treat people well. Like, that's always been what I've always heard. That they've
been incredible, all aspects of
everything about these and this, we didn't come in here with the intention of tire pumping. That's not what we're doing here. It's just, I think you saying what you're saying is important, because I don't think everyone understands that, like what these guys are doing behind the scenes.
I talked to Sheldon Keefe in Jersey in December. He brought that up. He's like, I don't think people understand how hard these guys work. And it's like, you watch the league night to night and you watch other teams. This is why they keep those guys, right? Like, we argue about it after every playoffs, like, how can you keep the team together? All these games where it's like, nothing's going on. Nylander, Matthews, Marner, game over. That's why you keep them together. It just hasn't yet translated to the playoffs, where it's like that advantage becomes an advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It might. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen it with McDavid and Draisaitl, where it's like, that series is over because those guys are just going into like beast mode. And we've seen that with these guys in the regular season. We just haven't seen it in the playoffs.
And listen, they got to own that. Like, clearly, and when we get to the playoffs,
it's a little Lamar Jackson-y.
It's very Lamar-like, where Lamar, he goes listen, he's probably going to win his third MVP. He is a phenomenon. Lamar Jackson is a phenomenon. And at different times within the playoffs, you can look at it and say, that's Lamar. Look what he's doing. Look how he's impacting the game.
That drive at the end of the game.
Exactly. And then you look at the fumble or the interception. You're like, what are you doing, man? That's not what you did in the regular season.
That's exactly right. People watch it, Hayes, and they're like, how come 85% of the regular season games, you're far and away the best player on the ice.
Yeah.
And how come you're not doing that more often in the playoffs? Like, because that's where you're supposed to elevate and do more than what you're just supposed to do what you're doing in the regular season. It is tougher. There is less time and space, but you're still supposed to be the best player out there.
Yeah. You have to be. That's the expectation.
You're supposed to separate from the rest of the players and elevate and be the best. And they've yet to do it come playoff time.
Right. And that's just a reality. And listen, they're going to go back for the 9th time. Like, that's the amazing thing. They've never really stumbled. I guess the Babcock, like at the end of the Babcock era, before COVID hit, it was like
young in that time.
Right, but I'm saying there was some debate, like, could they miss the playoffs? Like, they're kind of on the border.
Right, 1920.
Yes, there was, and then COVID hit, and there was the play-in, and, everything was kind of different. But for the most part, outside of the rookie year, where they got in technically on the last weekend of the year, it was game 81, they punched their ticket against Pittsburgh on that Saturday night. It's been a formality. Like, they're going to end up with 100-plus points and make the playoffs, and let's see what happens. And this year, it's going to be the exact same result. And tomorrow, they've got Columbus in town. Columbus lost against the Islanders last night, but they've been an incredible story, and they've been playing great. Dean Evason will join us in about 10 minutes, and we'll ask Dean. We caught up with him before the season, right? And he was really excited for the opportunity, and he did a really good job in Minnesota. Remember, he was pissed off that Minnie fired him, and he said, I'm coming for the Wild, and listen, it's worked out for both teams. John Hines done a pretty good job in Minnesota, really good job, and Evason's done a really, really good job in Columbus. But the Blue Jackets are here tomorrow, so we'll set the scene on that game with Dean. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. Mike Johnson will join us later this afternoon. Confirm or deny coming up. And Anthony Santander is in town. He was revealed to the media earlier today, right? Ross Atkins looked pretty happy up there. Ross should look happy, right? It was a good signing. You got to get a win.
Is it Hayes? Is it Hayes?
I'm a little more. We'll see.
Here's my thing about the signing. Okay?
Yeah.
How come the Dodgers had no interest in this cat? Can you explain that to me? Like, it's almost like, I don't know.
Is that the barometer, though? If the Dodgers
it's like an ugly
sign
person doesn't have a lot of suitors tracking them down to be their significant other, right? You know why? Because they're ugly. Why did this guy not have a bunch of suitors after him?
Well, I think he had suitors.
Really?
Listen, he hit 44 home runs last year. He's 30.
I know,
the guy's not
but in a world
slug.
where every good player the Dodgers want, why did they not want this guy? How come the Mets weren't barking down his door? How come? Just why? Why? The other guy they got, it was like he failed 2 physicals, and the Jays were like, we're going to put on some black sunglasses when you go into that doctor's office and then come on into the Jays team. It's just like, I don't know, man. It just reeks of we got to do something to appease the fan base. And I think there's still going to be a bad team. And it's like, yeah, but we gave a guy $95 million. It's like, oh, great.
I hear you. Listen, I understand that cynicism.
They've earned
they've earned it. They deserve it. And there is a very real possibility they splash even more money around the rest of the season, off season, lose a bunch of ball games, everyone gets fired, Vladdy leaves, Bo leaves, and at the end of it they say, we got to reset the whole thing. And then they got to pay Santander, they got to pay maybe Pete Alonso, they got to still pay
but isn't
Springer.
somebody smart enough to look at it and say, or is this like Ross and Mark's like last gasp?
That's what it is. That's what we're experiencing right now.
But I'm not giving a management group a last gasp because all you're doing is wiping your rear end with money because you're just saying, I got to go get this guy, go get that guy. And it's just patchwork and it's a waste of money. Like, look at the AL East, dude. Where are they going to finish in that division?
Here's the thing on that.
Okay.
But in reality, listen, I'm with you in leading the charge in terms of the PR, in terms of how bad it was, the deserved criticism. All that is accurate. I'm not here to change your mind on any of that. But if they've signed Santander, what you said about Hoffman is correct. His shoulder might fall off. If it doesn't, the guy is an elite bullpen arm, which they needed help on.
Hopefully it stays that way.
Hopefully it stays that way. They acquire Jimenez, who is not a great bat, but an A++ defender to play second base. They haven't had anyone to do that in years. It's been a revolving door at that position. Let's say they sign Pete Alonso. There's a report they might bring in Max Scherzer. That's the report.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
is that right?
Oh, yeah, they're in on Scherzer, apparently.
They're in on Scherzer?
Scherzer fell apart physically last year.
I understand that.
Dude,
obviously,
that guy's
it's a one-year deal.
44 years old.
He's 40. He's 40, Scherzer. Listen, it's got a Joe Thornton, Hakeem Olajuwon vibe to it. I got you.
Alonzo Mourning?
But he is a legend. And all I'm saying is, from a team building standpoint, if you put all the noise and all the disasters and all the embarrassments and all the they came in seconds and put it to the side, and I tell you they signed Santander, Alonso, Scherzer, Hoffman, bring in Jimenez. That's an active offseason.
Is that a good offseason, though? Just because you're active doesn't mean you're doing
How are they worse with those signings?
Those guys are all old.
Santander's
Dude, you know
30.
what it is?
Alonso's 30.
The players get better at 30?
It's a
Going
fat
into
guy wearing
25.
skinny jeans. That's what it is. It's
All
a
right.
fat guy wearing skinny jeans.
You guys are crazy. Like, I get
Dude.
hating on them is easy
I'm
to
not,
do.
like, I don't care.
You can't say that they're not a better club if all that happens. Like, they're a better team. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to win the division or even they'll make the playoffs. But you can't argue if they make those moves. You can't say, oh, actually, that's an active,
Hey,
decent
this is
offseason.
the only question I
That's
would
the
want to
truth.
ask then. This is the only question I would want to ask heading into spring training. Ross does his little gathering, I would say. With your off-season transactions, what exactly are you trying to accomplish?
That's a great question.
Very good question.
Yes.
Because I want to know, what do you think with this roster that you've assembled? What is the goal this year, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Yes.
I want to know that going into the season.
Are you winning the World
Regardless of how he actually feels, he's going to say, we're here to compete for a World Series.
But that's
what he's going to say to you. That's what you think he's going to say, hey, man, I'm just trying to save my job. I'm getting crushed here. This is a disaster. He's not going to say that.
I hate it that people don't want to show up and play for the Blue Jays. They all end up going to the Dodgers or somewhere else. But that's if they think that team's competing for the World Series,
they're going to say that. They may not think it. Publicly, they're going to say that.
If they say that, we're not talking about the Blue Jays the rest of the year. No way. We have to go.
All right, Dean Evason coming up. Mike Johnson still to come. Confirm or deny as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Overdrive continues. Powered by FanDuel. Just looking at the Jack Adams odds, and Spencer Carberry is a heavy favorite to win the Jack Adams right now on FanDuel, but Dean Evason is second. And I like that, man. If Columbus gets in, like, what a story this is going to be. Like, I don't generally just root for teams throughout the league or stories around the league. This is one I certainly support. I think everyone would support the idea of Columbus making it into the playoffs. And it's a race, and there's multiple spots up for grabs. Like, Tampa is not even a lock based on the way their standings are currently at.
They've got games in hand.
Got games in hand for sure, but as of right now, you got a scenario where, Boston's chasing it, Ottawa's chasing it, Montreal, Columbus is right there, and Columbus has been a great story. They've been a great story. But they're in town tomorrow night, and the Leafs are playing well. Leafs have won 3 in a row, playing well. Columbus coming off a loss last night against the Isle, and they're in town. It's cold up here. It's hockey season up here, man. It is hockey season up here. And here's Columbus Blue Jackets head coach Dean Evason. How you doing, Dean?
I'm good, guys. It's not as cold as northern Manitoba.
Yeah, that's very true. Do you take pride in that or what?
I do, but I actually hate the cold now. But when people talk about cold, especially in southern places and down in the States, they have no idea what cold actually is.
I know. It's incredible, man. We hear it how soft we are here in southern Ontario because we get it from guys in the prairies and, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, even northern Ontario. They look down on us like, how dare you complain about feels like minus 25 when it apparently is feels like minus 50 up in northern Ontario right now. So
well, that's been going on. That's been going on for many years. Believe me. Even when I played in the '80s, that was there was always the ribbing going back and forth between Western Leaguers and Ontario and Quebec, obviously.
Absolutely. Well, we've been talking about your team a lot and how well you guys have been playing, and you're in the playoff hunt here, and it comes as, I guess, a bit of a surprise from the outside world. But take us inside the room when you started the season, Dean, and how close to the expectations have you actually met here along the way? And is this kind of what you guys were expecting the whole time, that you compete for a playoff spot this year?
Well, I'll be honest with you, from my standpoint and the coaching standpoint, we did not have expectations. I'm truly a guy that goes day by day and game by game. And, I know there's a lot of talk of what's happened in Columbus over the last few years as far as the hockey. And then, clearly, starting how we did with the tragedy with Johnny Gaudreau was absolutely, horrible and devastating, and just everything that went on with that. But the guys have really come together. What we've asked of them was to be a team-first mentality, or have the team-first mentality, play hard for each other each and every night. And we'll see where we sit at the end of the day. And when I first took the job, or was given the job, fortunately, everybody talked about our young skill and we've got this and in the future and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was a bit disrespectful to some of the guys that had been there, and the Boone Jenners and Gabranson, who obviously are both long-term injury right now, but guys that have been there for a long time. There was a good foundation there. People talked about changing the culture and changing this and that, and it was there. It just, we just really had to come together as a group. Clearly, Johnny's situation brought the guys, close together. There was a lot of healing going on at the start of the year, but it allowed us to bring that togetherness on the ice. And fortunately, we played some good hockey, and we've got some really good hockey players on our hockey team. And fortunately, we've had some success, and we're where we are today because of that.
Dean, what's the biggest factor in getting the guys to believe in the results? Like, is it about individuals feeling confident, or you putting something in place structurally that allows them to have success? Like, just getting some wins and getting in the mix here, what was the biggest factor in guys believing that they could have success and not just be one of those teams where it's like, here we go again, we're going to get dummied every night? Now they believe that they can do it.
Yeah, I think it's the belief that they're going to play, hard for each other, and we've tried to from day one just put aside all the outside distractions, and obviously even before Johnny's situation, it was forget about what's been said and what's been. This is a completely different team. Like I said, there's been a lot of chaos with the organization over the last couple of years or a few years with things going on, and we can get into all the the coaching changes and all that kind of stuff. So sure, did we put some stability in the systems? Yeah, of course. But every team, every coach, and especially the National Hockey League, has a system and are dialed in and practice and your game plan to play games. But you can talk to your blue in the face, but if the players don't believe it and they don't believe in each other and what we're doing collectively to move forward, then it doesn't matter, right? So we've had a tremendous leadership group in that room, and I talk a lot about Johnny not being in the room, but Boone Jenner not being there, Gabranson, two of our leaders we haven't had all year, but it's allowed the Werenski and Monahan's hurt right now, but the Oliviers of the world to step up and be leaders on our team. And I could go through a lot. Like, I obviously named 3 guys, but I could name a lot more that have stepped up in situations in leadership roles that wouldn't necessarily be leaders if other people were there. So, it's a credit to the guys. It's a credit to our depth in our organization. From the top down, that we've got some depth in our hockey club and our organization to fill the holes that we have obviously had throughout the season.
With Dean Evason, head coach of the Blue Jackets, Columbus in town tomorrow night playing the Leafs, and always jokes about when he was in Toronto, Brian McCabe, Thomas Kaberle were a pair, and coaching staff would just instinctively say, Brian Thomas, you're up. Brian Thomas, you're up.
Tom Bryan, go ahead.
Tom Bryan, go ahead. And I'm curious if that's applying to Zach Werenski this year, because he's playing, on average, 26 minutes and 48 seconds. That is more than a minute, more than any other player in the league. Is that what you're doing, Dean? It's just Zach, you're up, Zach, you're up? Because, man, he's playing well.
Well, Steve McCarthy flips out the D on our team, and I'm not sure why Zach's not around 30 minutes, to be honest with you. That's why I bust on him all the time. I'm like, how come you didn't get him more like 35 in this game? But, we obviously play him a lot because he can. And that's not just because he's a tremendous offensive guy. He's dialed in all departments. He's a big, strong man that skates, has an offensive side, but doesn't cheat the game. He anticipates it. He gets in on the rush. He gets in on the offensive sequences and what have you. But he doesn't, sacrifice any defense game or cheat the game in any way, in order to get his cookies or what have you. So he's really stepped up in a massive leadership role on this hockey club. A guy that's quiet by nature, doesn't say a whole lot. But again, with the people out in our lineup, it's allowed leaders like him to step up and lead our hockey club in all areas.
Dean, every time I watch your team play, I am intrigued with Voronkov. What do you think his potential is? Like, he just looks big and mean and skilled, and where do you think his game can go?
Yeah, he's all of that. Because of the big body, and he got hurt early in the year as well, it's taken some time to get him into game shape. And, bigger guys take a little bit longer sometimes, and he had. He goes to the net with vengeance. Like everybody talks about the dirty area, the tougher, which isn't that tough anymore. But the commitment to go there is fantastic by him. But what he has is, as you said, his stick skills, his hand skills, and he gets up and down the ice really well. And it's been a nice compliment. Him and Marchenko and Monahan were aligned for basically majority of the year here, and then when Monty got hurt, Fantilli's slipped into that role nicely. But yeah, he has the skill set to score goals. With his commitment to get to the net has been fantastic. Doesn't speak perfect English, but has a great presence in our dressing room as well with his teammates. Is a real fun guy to be around. He jokes all the time, and so yeah, it's been a nice. He's been a nice fit for us here this year.
Dean, before we get you out of here, being a former Hartford Whaler and some other coaches, Q and Tip, and even Randy Ladouceur, who I had in Hartford and Carolina, they all rocked the mustache. How come you're disrespecting the Whalers and you don't have a mustache? Ryan asked me like 3 years ago, he's like, what the hell is with these Hartford Whaler guys and their mustaches?
Yeah, I can go Dave Babbage, Kurt Kleinendorf's had one. I could probably go on and on. I'm not right. I think they all look silly, and I told them that when I played with them.
Well, Ferraro he had one going there for a while too, right? Razor had
Pee-wee.
one.
Old Pee-wee had a mustache cooking in Hartford too.
That's just because he can't grow any on his head, guys. Come on.
That is true. He's compensating for something there, I think, back in the day. But yeah, the mustaches on that Hartford team was just crazy, man.
Dude,
it was outrageous.
Insane.
It was great.
You know what, Paul? Like I'm sure you know too. Like it's the Whaler organization. It's unbelievable. Like there's still the alumni and the fan club and whenever I talk to people, everybody talks about the Whale, and I was very proud, as I'm sure as you are, to have played for that franchise. It was a lot of fun living there, and I've still got great friends from when I did play there.
You know what? I was there my first 2 years in the league, and then there's all this talk. I mean, you're a young kid, and you go to the rink, and it's packed, and you're like, why is this organization being in question? I love playing there. It was a lot of fun. Didn't know any different, but I had a great time there as well. Anyway, thanks for doing this, Dean. It's been great talking to you.
All right, guys. I really appreciate it.
You got it. There's Dean Evason, head coach of the Blue Jackets, and he was with Hartford for quite a while there.
6 years, yeah.
Yeah, 84-85 through the 90-91 season. And then he was in San Jose. I wonder if he was in the expansion.
Dude, those Whaler teams, they had really good teams back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know, obviously I wasn't paying close attention, but man, they should have punched their ticket a couple times. Maybe gone on some deep. They were good teams. Obviously, Montreal was good, and Boston, but
Pittsburgh, right? They'd run into Pittsburgh, and that was the thing. You look at. I just randomly picked a year 89-90. Ronnie Francis on that team. You got Francis, Pat Verbeek, Kevin Dineen, Scott Young was a good player.
Dude,
Ray
you want to talk
Ferraro.
about a trade that would irritate a fan base? They traded Ronnie Francis and Alfie Samuelson to Pitt. Like, imagine giving that up.
Yeah.
Like, nowadays.
No kidding. No kidding. Like Ron Francis, was consistently one of the 10 best players in the league.
Yeah.
Like every
He's
year
top
of his
5
career.
points all time.
Right. And would have been in his prime when they moved
In
him.
his prime. As soon as he got to Pitt, he won 2 Stanley Cups in a row.
What a trade. Yeah, but you look at the mustaches and even just the you know what
Doogie and Joe from the Bridge just start tossing up Whaler mustaches all afternoon.
They're so good. And even the hometowns, all right, Sault Ste. Marie, Sarnia, Clinton, Massachusetts, I believe. There's Trail, BC. We know that's where Ray's from. Flin Flon, that's Dean Evason. Moosomin, Saskatchewan, that's where Dave Tippett's from. You know what's crazy, too, the way these guys sound? Like Ron Francis and Dave Tippett and Joel Quenneville have the deepest, like, grovelly voice ever. Like, terrifying voices. If you listen to Ron Francis and Joel Quenneville, Dave Tippett.
Dude, I told
just
you.
Just, like, gritty mustaches. And it's crazy.
Me and my wife went to a wedding this summer, and we sit down, and I looked at the nameplate. I saw my wife's name right beside hers, Joel Quenneville.
Yeah. Joel Quenneville.
My wife does not know hockey at all, does not know who Q is.
Yeah.
And you're right, that voice would be terrifying.
Oh.
Like if he was you were ever in the doghouse, man.
Terrifying.
That raspy voice.
Yeah. Terrifying. And I'm telling you, Tippett, Ronnie Francis, the same thing. You know Ron well. He kind of soft-spoken, but he's got that gritty Sault Ste. Marie voice going, too.
Yeah. I had to sit beside Ron Francis a lot of, like, bus trips to the hotel, airport, and I asked him several times, I'm like, how are you best friends with Alfie Samuelson? Like, he seems like the biggest dirtbag that's ever played the game. And Alfie was at the wedding, too, the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe the dirtiest player. That was one of the dirtiest players that ever played the game. Like, he was so dirty, dude.
That's a sign, too, because we focus a lot on the modern game, how, like, heavyweights aren't around and fighters aren't aware. Like, disgustingly filthy, dirty players aren't around anymore.
Alfie was, man. Like, he would probably tell you. He was a competitor, and he was a great defenseman, but damn, was he dirty.
Yeah. He'd spear you. And
dude.
Yeah.
He was sneaky, dirty player, too. Like, one of the best. Look at these guys. Yeah. These guys were studs with these mustaches coming up.
Mustache.
Dude, is that a hockey player or what?
Roaming around Hartford, Connecticut. Imagine trying to cover him, Jonas. Like, he had a bad night, -5 or something, just terrible. Got benched in the third, and you got to go up to that guy and ask him what went wrong. Although back then, he probably would have been like, yeah, I'll tell you. Come sit, whatever. What do you need? There wasn't any, like, PR back then or anything. It was just, the door's open. Come on in.
And Hayes, you basically can't be dirty anymore.
No.
Like that Connor Garland play, that was standard procedure in the 80s and 90s. That's 7 minutes worth of penalties now.
Right. There he is. There's Dave Tippett. Everything's just like jet black hair and jet black mustache.
Yeah.
There's too many cameras. There's 2 refs now. Right, there's only 1 ref back in the day.
Oh yeah,
and they've taken away.
Do you remember playing minor hockey? As soon as you saw that ref turn north towards the play, you would just absolutely tomahawk.
2-hander right over some guy, the back of some guy's legs.
Hard as you could, and then the ref would look back, and the guy would be lying on the ground, and he's like, "I just want to call a penalty,"
because he knew you did something.
He knew you did it.
Yeah,
he knew you did it.
Didn't see it. He's like, "I can't get you this time, but I'll get you." I'll get you. And you'd be on the wrong side of it sometimes, too. You'd get clipped, and you're like, how'd you miss that? And the ref's like, I don't know. I didn't see it. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, all right, I got you. Now they got 2 refs and 4K cameras everywhere. There's no getting away from it. Look at Ray's stash.
Dude, that looks like an 18-year-old mustache.
Yeah, that looks like one that's been, like, manicured for a long time. Brilliant. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. In about 15 minutes, confirm or deny as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. Shout out to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Tough one for the Bowen family. Everyone that's a Fighting Irish fan. Oh, look at O's coat.
Dude,
what is that thing?
This is the Macaj.
That looks very warm. I will grant you that looks very warm, but I still think you go out there with a T-shirt underneath in this weather, 5 minutes in, you're freezing.
Here's what I want you to look at, Hazy B. Look at the double layering. You see this? This is the interior part of the jacket. This folds over top, double layers, all fur inside. I could be naked.
I don't think so, man.
Dude.
I don't, and I'd rather you didn't try that. I don't want that test out. But I don't think so, man. I'm telling you, technology in terms of jackets can only go so far, Jonas.
I think we should do a man on the scene thing. Jeff should go outside, call in, and we'll see how long he lasts.
What would be great is if you could set up, like, for the whole Mike Johnson interview, you're just outside in that jacket and see if you can survive. I'll bet you're freezing within 5 minutes, and you're dying to get inside. It does look like a beautiful jacket. It looks very warm. I appreciate that greatly. You know who makes a great jacket? TSN Generally Supply. They have some great jackets, man. There's some great jackets around here.
They have got a Nobis TSN jacket that's insane. I love it.
It's so do I. It's beautiful. All right. Keep the jacket on. Take it off. Do whatever you got to do. It is a very beautiful looking jacket. It does look warm. I'll grant you that. All right, what do we have coming up? Mike Johnson will join us in the next hour. Confirm or deny at 5:30. Back into the Blue Jays. I need some positivity out of you today, Jonas. I need you to come around on the idea of them salvaging the team-building part of the offseason. Can't get you there?
I'm going to put my sunshine goggles.
Hayes, you hate them more than anybody. Why are you Mr. Positive?
I'm not being positive in terms of the front office and their reputation. I'm just saying there's still moves you could make that would not be awful moves. Every move they make isn't terrible just because it's Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you got to be realistic.
Fair-ish.
Fair-ish.
Let's talk about it.
All right, more on that coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.